Just want to start off by saying a big thank you, really, for following the channel, providing your likes, your comments, and everything like that. It really, honestly, it does mean a lot. And we've got a competition coming up for giving away a West Ham top. We're going to give away one next week, which is going to be a home away fur kit, whatever you want, any size. We give away one every month. All you need to do is be a subscriber, though. So if you're not a subscriber, just click that subscribe button. Also click the like button because it does help the channel, and it does mean a lot to us. This is something I really want to talk about, and it's quite frustrating, and I appreciate it's something that's sort of a bit of a hot topic at the moment for West Ham and West Ham fans at the moment in particular. In general, actually, in terms of how the mainstream media are basically treating West Ham fans and this kind of message that they're sending, it's so wrong, and I really don't like it. West Ham Fan TV, Nicky Hawkins was on TalkSport early this week, and he was talking to Jeff Stelling about the David Moyes situation, and it was just the typical mainstream media view. Basically, get back in your box, West Ham fans. Basically, what he's referring to is that West Ham fans that are calling for change and they're defending David Moyes. These pundits are defending David Moyes, and they're not. It's not just one or two. It is the absolute masses. It's absolute masses. It's Sky Sports, the BBC, you name it. Everyone is all out to defend David Moyes. They seem to cherry pick the bits that they like, and they ignore the other bits. I find it really exhausting, actually, really boring, this whole narrative that seems to follow West Ham. And my view of it is that they are viewing West Ham in the wrong way. They're just not seeing the club. They see West Ham for whatever reason it may be, as sort of like this yo-yo club, this tin pot. Yeah, London. Yeah, I know. Yeah, they're a bit crappy. They try their best, but really they flatter to deceive. They don't do anything, and they expect us to probably be in the Championship in a couple of years. I think that's kind of how we're seen. They seem to just forget, or they choose to forget, the actual facts, which aren't West Ham in the second biggest stadium in the country? Aren't West Ham the club that have are top six spenders in the last 7 or 8 years in the Premier League? I think actually we were the top two a couple of years ago in the Premier League. They also seem to forget that West Ham moved from our beloved Upton Park, our home that we cherished and loved and always have and always will, to challenge the top sides. That was the promise by our owners. We need to go there so we can go and get this club in the Champions League. That was one of the ambitions from the club, wasn't it? But these things seem to be forgotten when they talk about West Ham now. It's almost like they just say, yeah, forget that. And what really does my head in with it, right, is that if you spoke to Mr. Jeff Stelling and Rio Ferdinand and Alan Shearer and all these pundits and Jamie O'Hara and all these people, Simon Jordan, if you spoke to them at the beginning of a season, right, before a ball's been kicked, and you said to them, Brighton, should Brighton be trying to dream of getting the Champions League? They go, yeah, that's what football's all about. Should West Ham be dreaming to try and break into the top six and trying to aspire? Yeah, of course you should be. That's what football's all about. That's what sport's all about. They'd agree with that. They'd encourage that and say, well, that's what football's about. This is what you should be doing as a fan base. You should all be dreaming. That's what it's about. And that isn't that. And I agree. That is what you should be doing. I understand there's realisms to it. You know what I mean? I do understand that. But at the same time, you should want more. You should be able to dream. Why not? But yet, when it actually comes to the crunch, when it actually comes to the point when you're talking about actual facts now, where we are in a Premier League season, and West Ham now fans that we're not actually happy where we are, we want more. They're basically like implying that we're stupid and deluded, and we shouldn't have that view. I don't get it. I heard Jeff Stelling say, "Well, what do you want then? Sorry, what do you want? You want to play? Would you rather have attractive football or defensive, boring football and win things? Well, they're not mutually exclusive. Why can't we have both? I don't understand it." End of the day, I'm grateful to David Moyes. I really am, for everything he's brought to his football club. And why wouldn't I be? I'm sure as most West Ham fans are. He's massively overachieved. No one expected David Moyes to take this club into top 6, getting us into the Europa League, then getting to the semi-final, getting us in Europe again, getting us a trophy. No one expected that. And he's done very, very well. But I'm sorry, but there is that feeling that the relationship has just run its course. That's all it is. And for West Ham fans to want more and to go, do you know what, we want to kick on now. I don't know why we keep getting told to basically get back in your box, get back in your lane. You shouldn't have those. You shouldn't be challenging the top. They don't like it. They don't like it. Because my feeling is this, right? If this was, say, Manchester United in this situation, would they be saying to them, yeah, no, that you're fine where you are? Of course they wouldn't. They'd be saying, go on, you should be challenging. You should be getting there. Why can't West Ham be in that mix? I don't understand it. And I don't like the way that the media are constantly out to attack the fans. I really don't. It's been, yeah, frustrating at the very least, really, to watch. And I don't like it. I don't like the way that Stelling went at Nicky the other day. But I'll tell you what, fair play to him. Yeah, fair play to him. He stood up well, and I thought he handled it really well, because it wasn't pleasant, and it's constant. We're getting it all the time. This constant defence of David Moyes, this constant attack on West Ham fans. It would be nice to actually have someone come out and actually look at the data, look at the stats, actually go, do you know what? The football hasn't been great for West Ham. I can see why they want change. The problem is with these people is that they just skim the surface, don't they? They don't really, really understand things. And I think their view of West Ham is just wrong. I think David Moyes' views of West Ham are just wrong as well. I think he actually shares that view a little bit, even though he's been the manager for this club. And as I say, I'm not going to go at him in that regard. David Moyes has been great for West Ham, but it's almost like he doesn't really get it. He doesn't really understand the club and the aspirations of the fan base. He doesn't quite get it, because he's always reminding us, isn't he? Well, you've never had it so good. You never had it so good, and all this. I'm not denying that, okay? I'm not denying that the last few years are the best I've had it as a West Ham fan. Absolutely factual. It's been the best period of my life as a West Ham fan. There's no two ways about it, and I think most would agree with that. I don't think there's been many other better times than this as West Ham's in our history. I really don't. I know we've had a few good moments, but this has been a really good period. I'm not denying that. But that doesn't mean then you can't want more. It doesn't mean then you go, well, that's it then. We never want any more, and that's it. We want to kick on as a football club. Surely that's what football's about, isn't it? Wanting to keep going and progressing. I honestly, I really do find it frustrating. I really do. The general consensus with the mainstream media and how we are perceived it's very, very annoying and quite disrespectful, actually. I think it's a lot of disrespect towards West Ham fans. Almost like you don't know what you're talking about. Be quiet. Jamie Howard actually said that. I think he would do. He's Spurs. He's going to say that, but he did sort of get back in your lane. I just can't stand it. It's a real insult. Steve Bruce has now joined the bandwagon now as well. Oh, West Ham fans better start being careful what they wish for. All this stuff. I just hate that. I really don't like it, and it's one of those that's just going to. Well, it's not going to change, is it? They're not going to suddenly shift. I can imagine that if David Moyes does depart the club, which he will, I'm sure, at some stage, whether it be through that he's sacked during the season, which I doubt is going to happen, unless we go on this losing run just goes on and on and on, then possibly so. But the likelihood it'll be the end of the season. But you just know what's going to happen. They're going to be like they're going to attack the West Ham fans for it. Well, they handed him out that job. You can just see it coming already. They just seem to have their daggers out for the fans at the moment. They also sort of fail to ever mention that although last season we won a trophy, fantastic, best moment of my life, in terms of watching West Ham. But they failed to mention the fact we were in a relegation battle all season. They never mentioned it. It's like completely forgotten. Literally the whole season down the bottom of the league with a team that's got Jared Bowen, Declan Rice, Lucas Paqueta. Yeah, don't worry about that. Just forget that. You won the trophy, now be quiet. As I say, I really don't want this to come across like I'm being ungrateful to David Moyes and what he's achieved at the club. And I really am not. I absolutely not. And this is something I think they just don't get. Is that they're not understanding that West Ham fans as a whole are really grateful, are really happy for what's been achieved, but they just want to push on now. But yet they just totally ignore that. They really completely and utterly ignore it. And all they seem to do is just belittle and talk like we don't know, have that opinion view of that West Ham fans don't know what they're banging on about. Ungrateful, all that kind of stuff. And it's infuriating. It really is. But look, that's what I have to say about it, really. I don't want it to be something. I just felt like I need to have a little bit of a point about it because it is something that's going on at the moment. I don't like it. Can't stand it all the time. It's one of those reasons I think a lot of fans like yourself come onto it here and watch these channels. I do. I find it interesting when I want to see what's going on with a football club. For instance, I keep bringing them up. Man United, for instance, the whole takeover. Go on YouTube. Go and listen to Goldbridge. Go and listen to these other people. They're the ones that will talk more sense. They will talk about actually what's going on, how the fans are feeling. There's loads of these little channels that are available for all the football clubs, and you can see why they're popular and growing in popularity because of that. Because people want authentic views and understanding of what's going on at football clubs. Because if I stood back and someone said to me, last season, Nottingham Forest. So Nottingham Forest last season, there was the rumours coming out that fans were unhappy and with Steve Cooper at the club. Weren't very happy with the situation there. Now, from an outsider, like a West Ham fan, like myself, you kind of go, really? What's the problem? Like, he's just got you up and you haven't been up in the Premier League for a quarter of a century. Do you know what I mean? Why, you should be really happy, surely, wouldn't you? But then when you go and listen to their channels, they will tell you exactly what the feelings were. It was to do with the style of football, the naivety, and there was a real frustration amongst the fan base. Again, much like David Moyes, they were going, but we're bloody grateful for what he's brought to this club. We're not happy where things are now. We want to move on. Then you get the authentic view. But it's like me going on, if let's just say I was a pundit on Sky Sports, going, they've got Steve Cooper, he's been great for the club. What are they banging on about? It's like that kind of arrogance and aggression, like, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, actually, they do. And you can see why that fan channels become more popular because this is what people get. People get tired listening to it. I get tired listening to it. I'll just turn off. It just does my head in listening to these pundits that will slate fans and tell us what we should be thinking, and this is how you should feel. And you think, well, who are you? Do you mean you don't know anything about what's going on, really? You just know you're skimming the surface. You're just seeing David Moyes holding up a trophy, going, well, what are you moaning about? And as I've just said, West Ham fans aren't complaining about that. They just seem to miss that point. They just don't get it. They just go. They think, well, you shouldn't have any aspirations, and it just boils my blood a little bit, and I don't like it. And as I say, it's something that's going to kind of carry on, isn't it? We're not going to be defended, unfortunately. We're going to have to just defend ourselves when it comes, I think, with the mainstream media, and that's the way it's going to be. David Moyes is getting protected by these pundits and these big channels. That he just is being protected by them. And for David Moyes, it's probably not a good thing, really. Let's be honest. It's probably not helping him in terms of his relationship with the fans, really, because it's almost like he's got people, it's almost like a ganging up on West Ham fans. You know what I mean? Oh, they're all sort of bundling behind him and sneering and pointing. When I can't imagine that David Moyes is a person that particularly wants that, really. I mean, maybe he does. I don't know. I don't imagine so. It's not great, is it? Let's be honest. It doesn't look good. It feels at the moment the West Ham fans are actually being a bit attacked because of what's going on. It's just not helping the situation. I said about it in a previous video. Be interesting to see now. I mean, I'm becoming even more so sort of interested in and really paying attention to what David Moyes is saying now in press conferences. I want to understand how he's coming across, and because I've not liked it lately. He's quite snarly. He's getting a little bit angry and he's biting. I understand he's going to be offended by things like the banners. I've said about in the previous one. I can understand why it would hurt him. I really would. But I just sometimes think, David, like just swallow that. But just be humble. Just come out and try to agree with the fans and say, do you know what? I understand where they're coming from. But he hasn't. And you have that kind of attitude compounded with then the Rio Ferdinands and all these people then come behind and go, yeah, West Ham fans, you don't know what you're banging on about. It's just not good. It's creating now a real divide, a further divide between the manager and his mates. and the West Ham fans. And look, it's only one way it ends. We've seen this before. We've had this with Sam Allardyce, the same thing. This kind of, the cut behind the ear and all that stuff. And I don't want to see it go down that route, but it feels like it is a little bit. And look, as I say, it's all I wanted to say on it, really. I feel I've sort of ranted enough about the mainstream media. I don't, I get that that's how these people operate. I understand, as I've said, that they sort of see the skim the surface and give their views. I understand they're paid to do that, so they are going to do it. But it would be nice, wouldn't it, to get some sort of bit more facts behind it. Stop rather than just sort of seeing a few couple of bits. Oh yeah, we won a trophy, done this. You got Europe, get over it. That rather than actually going, hang on, let's look at the possession. Let's look at this football. Let's look at our West Ham playing. Let's look at the form they've been in actually for quite a period. God, it hasn't been good at all. Rather than sort of just cherry picking bits and then throwing it back at fans. I don't like it. I really don't. It's going to be very interesting to see how this all pans out. As I say, for me, in regards to David Moyes, and when you fall out with fans, sadly, I think it only goes one way.